December 12th, 2022, the day that history was made in the United States government. The day that, for the first time in American history, a sitting Congress was asking the United States Department of Justice to prosecute a former president of the United States. What you're about to hear is me read an article from Salon.com written by Amanda Mandicore, a senior writer there. The January 6th committee makes their final plea. Prosecuting Trump will be hard, but morally necessary. The committee clearly worries about politicians like Mary Jean Taylor Greene fomenting the next insurrection.
Beyond any specific details and recommendations we present, there's one factor I believe is most important in preventing another January 6th: accountability. Accountability that can only be found in the criminal justice system.
Monday's hearing may have felt a bit muted to those who have been carefully following the coverage and knew that criminal referrals against Donald Trump were coming. Still, it is important to zoom out and remember what a big deal this is. Never before in history has the United States Congress asked the Department of Justice to prosecute a former president. But then again, never before in history has there been made public so much evidence that a president incited an insurrection in the hopes of seizing the White House illegally. The committee meeting was conducted much like a prosecutor's closing arguments, with members again walking viewers through the timeline of Trump's attempted coup and highlighting some of the most damning evidence previously presented. Now, yesterday, they pushed forward those criminal counts, those criminal referrals: obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government, conspiracy to make false statements, and crucially inciting or assisting an insurrection, all of them against the United States Code. The report summary actually says, and I'm quoting, President Trump was directly responsible for summoning what became a violent mob to Washington, D.C., urging them to march on the U.S. Capitol and then provoking the already violent and lawless crowd with his 224 tweet about the then vice president. For those of us who watched all the hearings, today could feel a bit like a retread, but it was an important exercise. The committee was sending a signal to the Department of Justice, and that signal is the amount of evidence to prosecute Trump is overwhelming, and prosecuting Trump is a moral necessity. As they laid out in their presentation, they believe that unless something is done to stop Donald Trump, he'll try again, and next time the violence could be worse. There is no doubt that prosecuting Trump will be hard. Attorney General Merrick Garland has for months been reluctant to deal with Donald Trump's insurrection-related crimes. It's widely believed that his main reason is fear that securing a conviction could be difficult. Republican voters on a jury might behave like Senate Republicans did during the impeachment trials and ignore all the evidence and acquit Trump anyway. Trump was careful to keep his distance from the actual Capitol rioters, letting circuits do most of the actual organizing and communicating his wishes through implications instead of direct orders. This mafioso style of communication is one the expert criminals have used for decades because it often works to evade legal consequences. Monday's hearings, however, was a reminder that it might be easier to convict Trump than initially assumed. Garland has appointed a special prosecutor, Jack Smith, to look into charging Trump for January 6 related crimes. Smith seems to be moving quickly already. The stunning amount of evidence amassed by the January 6 committee, including more than 1,000 interviews and 1 million documents, will make his job much easier. The committee plans to release not just a summary of their findings, but the bulk of his evidence. If that evidence weren't incredibly strong, it's unlikely they would make these referrals. It's not enough to hope the political system will fix this on its own. Yes, the 2022 midterms were a rebuke of Trump and his fascist movement, with election deniers losing key races that Trump really needed in order to pull off his main strategy of stealing the White House in 2024. However, when fascists lose their path toward seeking power, they often shift to violence. This is exactly what happened with January 6, as the committee made clear in their hearings over the summer. On December 18th, Trump and his supporters had a confrontation with White House lawyers. When the latter made clear that there was no remaining legal avenues to overturn the election, Trump pivoted immediately to calling a mob, sending out his infamous tweet calling for the MAGA loyalists to come to the Capitol to a wild event on January 6th. Since the midterms, we've seen the same pattern. Instead of accepting their losses gracefully, there's a predictable shift once again towards open Trumpist longing for bloodshed. Earlier this month, at the New York Young Republican Club's annual gala, where GOP movers and shakers turn out to rub shoulders, it devoted fairly quickly to ugliness. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia bragged, and I quote, "If Steve Bannon and I had organized January 6th, we would have won, not to mention it would have been armed," unquote. Similarly, the group's president, Kevin Wax, insisted, "We want total war," quoting him. Again, "We want total war," saying it's important for to fight the left in the streets, unquote. Just last week, the Republican loser in Arizona's governor race, of course I'm talking about Kari Lake, held out an insurrectionist settlement point of pride, quoting her, "I know that right now we can identify as anything we want to, but I want you to know that I identify as a proud election-denying deplorable," unquote. Such rhetoric is inherently violent, the underlying assumption that neither the law or the will of the people should stand between Republicans and power. The swiftness of the pivot to violence is not surprising. Brute force is not just a tool in the fascist mentality, but an end in itself. The country was reminded of this in September, after the release of a video of close Trump associate Roger Stone from the days before the 2020 election. Quoting him in that video, "Fuck the voting. Let's get right down to the violence," unquote. Stone can be heard ranting, Stone later said he was only kidding. Indeed, a standard Republican deflection is to claim such rhetoric is simple hyperbole or jokes. As long as Trump remains unprosecuted for inciting the Capitol riot, this shaky argument has some public justification. The committee's point was clear. Trump and other Republicans will continue to use such language so long as they are confident that the DOJ is afraid to hold elected or higher level officials accountable. It's worth remembering that the Oath Keepers used the Just Jokes defense in their pre-January 6th conspirings. Despite myriad warnings from legal experts that such excuses make it hard for them to prosecute seditious conspiracy, at the end of the day, the jury just didn't buy it. Certainly, it's hard to argue just joking when people are armed with flagpoles and bear spray and are beating cops and breaking windows. Trump himself has indicated pride in how January 6 unfolded, and suggested that he would issue pardons for convicted insurrectionists if he was reelected. Mark Mellow's aide, Cassidy Hutchinson, testified that Trump was furious that rally goers had to pass through megatometers, and that he said something to the effect of, "I don't effing care that they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me." After Trump was dissuaded from going to the Capitol with his supporters, he reportedly revealed that in the riot on television from the safety of the White House refused multiple requests to call the mob off. Ours is not a system of justice where foot soldiers can go to jail and the masterminds and the ringleaders get a free pass. That was Representative Jamie E. Raskin of Maryland saying during Monday's hearing. At this point in time, there is still an aspirational statement. Trump and his top-level lieutenants remain unindicted. This January 6 committee's actions were unprecedented, but their concerns are crystal clear. If the Justice Department does not step up to hold Trump accountable, American democracy will remain in serious trouble. Donald Trump is 100% guilty. Do your job. CTP Know The Truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.